Hi everyone, I'm Ellen Gerdes. I graduated in 2005. I'm currently teaching in the dance department at Temple University and finishing my dissertation on the intersections of choreography and politics in Hong Kong. I'm thrilled to be a part of this event today because Wesleyan taught me that dancing is theorizing and inspired me to become a dance educator and dance researcher.
Hi everyone, my name is Eury German and I graduated from Wesleyan in 2016 with a double major in biology and dance. After Wesleyan, I went to receive an MFA at NYU's Tisch School of the Arts, and I graduated in 2018 with an MFA in performance and choreography. Since graduating, I've been dancing in New York City, with various choreographers and companies. I've done summer stock theater, I've danced for In Dance with Hari, and throughout that time I also have been working as a program manager at Dance Project of Washington Heights, which is an education org that is providing access to dance education to lower income families. Before the pandemic, I was dancing with the second company of Ballet Hispanico, and throughout the pandemic I have been doing a lot of remote work for Dance Project and also tutoring privately to New York City families. I am so excited to talk to you all soon about how my Wesleyan education really shaped who I am, particularly because I started dancing when I got to West, so I'll see you then.
Hey everybody, I'm Chloe Jones. I graduated from Wesleyan in 2015 with a double major in dance and Hispanic literatures and cultures. I'm pumped to be part of the inaugural Anyone Can Dance to talk about all the ways that my dance education at West shaped who I am, transformed my perspective on the world, and set me on my path post-graduation. Now I'm the executive director of The Yard. We're a dance and performing arts organization on Martha's Vineyard. I'll see you on the 26th.
Hey y'all, I'm Nik Owens, graduated from Wesleyan from the dance program in 2012. Right now I'm living in New York City and I'm dancing for a few folks, David Dorfman Dance being one of them and Tiffany Mills Company being the other, as well as being involved in a lot of project-based work with folks that I have run in similar dance circles with, and a lot of duet work as well as teaching and setting some repertory work on students in schools in New York City as well as upstate New York. And I'm really excited to be part of this project, just because I've lived a pretty lucky life when it comes to dance, and I know that has also been the result of a lot of hard work, and I want to be able to share that experience with y'all and answer any questions you may have. So looking forward to our conversation, and I hope you guys are well. Take care.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Fiona Coffey. I'm the Associate Director for Programming and Performing Arts at the Center for the Arts, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to the inaugural Dance Alumni Chat Series, Anyone Can Dance. You know, the dance department and the Center for the Arts have long had, I think, a very special and close relationship. And our goal at the Center for the Arts is also to support and lift up the work of our students and faculty. So we feel an enormous sense of pride when we see our dance alumni forging these extraordinary careers in dance, and then being generous enough to come back and share their experiences with our students. So on behalf of the CFA today, I just want to give a deep sense of thank you and gratitude to our guests today for being here and for enriching our community. So before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge that Wesleyan is located on Wangunk land. The Wangunk are the indigenous residents of land on both sides of the Connecticut River, including Mattabesset, now known as Middletown. We recognize and respect the relationship between the Wangunk and this land as we work towards a more equitable community for all. Our guests are joining us from the lands of the Lenape, the Shawnee, the Iroquois, and the Mannahatta. All who come here are welcome in this space today. I would encourage you to please put your names in the chat along with the land you're located on. If you don't know, you can find out the information on the link that is in the chat a little bit further up. So with that, I would like to turn it over to my esteemed colleague and chair of the dance department, Hari Krishnan.
Thank you so much, Fiona. Thank you so much. We treasure the continued relationship Dance has with the CFA. And thank you, Hannah, Salma, and Nick for facilitating the tech operations for this particular event. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us at this inaugural event of Anyone Can Dance. Yay! I feel like I know most of you and I'm talking to friends and family. So thank you so much for being a part of this really special gathering. At Wesleyan's Dance Department, we believe in inclusivity, accessibility, and possibility. Simply put, anyone can dance, which means everybody can dance. For us, the body is pivotal. It embodies multiple meanings, multiple truths, and realities, and understanding the fundamental plurality and the complexity of human experiences. We have a rich, robust, contemporary program with a global perspective. In fact, the dance department is a leader in global circulations of dance today, teaching a multiplicity of exciting, different, diverse styles such as Afro Brazilian, ballet, Bharatanatyam, contemporary dance, delicious movement, hip hop, jazz, West African dance, and so much more, all in our universe of making, moving, and imagining. The possibilities are endless. Our curriculum sparks curiosity around the world we live in. It is flexible and adaptable to students' various research inquiries. We nurture the transformative power of movement, which can be healing and a crucial tool for civic protests, social justice, and hope. At Wesleyan's Dance Department, dance can change the world, and anyone can indeed dance. I am thrilled to my bones to engage with four world changers: Ellen Gerdes, yay, Eury German, yay, Chloe Jones, yay, and Nik Owens, yay. They are four amazing West Dance alum who have been changing the world around them in really, really beautiful, transformative ways. So how this is going to roll is each of them will give you a quick take, sharing their experiences um, in our dance program, the benefits of a dance education, and what they have been up to since graduating. This will be followed by opening up the conversation to you, the audience, where you can interact with them, ask them questions you might have, including the most existential question: what do you do with a dance degree? So, Ellen Gerdes, you have the floor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hari, for this wonderful opportunity. I'm just delighted to be here today to speak a little bit. I graduated in 2005 from Wesleyan, and I was a dance major who didn't really intend to major in dance at first. But I kept taking courses in the major because they challenged and excited me the most. I was particularly swayed by Katya's dance education class that connected dance and politics. So I selected the major, and I also took many courses in East Asian studies, including Chinese language. For the dance major honors thesis, I conducted ethnographic and historical research on Chinese dance that have supported my trajectory as a researcher to this day. And I wrote a list of some things that I learned in the dance major at Wesleyan. I learned that studying dance theory and practice together requires critical, creative, and abstract thinking. I learned that choreographing is a way of researching, making meaning, and problem solving. I learned that dance can reflect culture and politics and also instigate change. That dance can bring people closer together. I still have good friends from the dance major. The dances from all over the world are always inherently evolving, and modern dance and ballet are not foundational nor the sole innovators. That teaching dance to beginning dancers is extremely rewarding. And I learned how to advocate for dance in interdisciplinary spaces. Since graduating in 2005, I have kept dance at the center of my professional life. I studied dance in Beijing and Shanghai, China. I studied a master's in dance education at Temple University and taught dance in K-12 public school settings and taught dance education, theory, and history courses at universities. I performed as a freelance artist in Philadelphia and Los Angeles, presented my research at national and international dance conferences, and published it.
and I just completed my PhD in Culture and Performance at UCLA in the Department of World Arts and Cultures Dance. I'm currently teaching in the dance department at Temple University. And I wanted to share just a few minutes of my dissertation with you today so that you can see the type of research I do with dance that I really credit as beginning at Wesleyan. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. My dissertation focuses on choreographies of One Country, Two Systems in Hong Kong. One Country, Two Systems is a political compromise that started in 1997 when the British colonial rule ended and Chinese rule took over Hong Kong. It's a compromise that allowed Hong Kong to be both Chinese and to maintain certain freedoms from British colonial rule, such as freedom of speech, and also judicial and legal systems from British colonial rule. I have 3 chapters in my dissertation, and the first looks at the Hong Kong Academy for the Performing Arts, where all dance majors take ballet, modern dance, and Chinese dance forms. I also look at an improvisation and sight dance festival called the iDance Festival, which I attended and participated in for 2 years. And thirdly, I look at theater works by a theater director named Danny Young, who works with Shichu, or Chinese opera forms, which are interdisciplinary forms, heavily movement-based. As an example, I wanted to tell you a little bit how I look at the iDance Improvisation Festival. And I ask in all of my chapters, how do these choreographies relate to Chineseness? How do they relate to colonialism, globalization? But right now I'll focus on this question of Chineseness. So the iDance Improvisational Festival in Hong Kong does not engage with Chinese folk and classical dance forms as explicit markers of Chinese nationalism. It connects to an international network via genres of improvisation and site-specific dance that are problematically assumed universal and natural. It welcomes Chinese artists and includes China in its conception of the international, yet it does not frame the relationship as China-Hong Kong cultural exchange. It allows Chinese and Hong Kong artists alike to present choreography that expresses criticism and ambivalence about Chinese culture. One of the events of this festival is called Research Week, and it's basically a week of improvisation workshops with the same people. And I joined as a participant observer for 2 different festivals. I argue in the dissertation that it's a way of rehearsing intimacy and democracy that has been advocated for in Hong Kong by its social protest movements. The week together involves an egalitarian process of teaching each other and creating a performance score with equal contributions from members. As we danced together, we kept a sort of running list of questions that came up after we improvised. What does it mean to empathize in improvisation? How do we establish trust through dancing? What does it mean to perform selfishness or generosity? Where is consciousness? How do we relate inner sensations outward to others? How do we find the present moment together? Besides the Research Week event, I also look at a site-specific event with the festival, which tours through Hong Kong, even offering a tour guide and dances along the way in the city and public spaces of Hong Kong. I argue that it's a way of staging the local, staging it as not Chinese or post-colonial or British, but really finding what does it mean to be specifically local in Hong Kong. And I also talk about the potential that dance finds in spaces of demolition and reclamation, these spaces that might be changing or destroyed or gentrifying by changes in political landscapes, that the improvisation embraces disappearance, the culture of disappearance in Hong Kong, and that it finds potential in sites of conflict, and that it can imagine alternative futures for Hong Kong. So I argue that the iDance Festival is actually finding possibilities for the future and establishing some hopeful structures for Hong Kong. Thank you so much. I think that's the time I have, and I love to hear everybody else's presentations.
Thank you so much, Ellen. Thank you. Thank you. Next up, we have Eury German.
Hi, I don't know if I'm like meant to make myself speak of you, but here I am. Hi everyone! I got so emotional seeing so many faces, so many familiar faces. Hello, hello. Hi, my name is Eury. I am a graduate of 2016, a little nervous, clearly, and I was a dance and biology double major at Wesleyan. Let me start my timer so that I know when to stop. I'll take sort of an epic approach 3 times of my life where I, before Wesleyan and during Wesleyan and after Wesleyan, and sort of what that has impacted my life and how it's shaped the way that I dance and the way that I sort of operate in the world. So before going to Wesleyan, I hadn't actually danced ever. I hadn't done a sport that like was really related to dance, like martial arts, gymnastics, or anything like that. I'm Dominican, and I was born in the DR. And so there was like culture and rhythm in it, but there was no sort of training or classical training. And my senior year of high school, I started really binge watching So You Think You Can Dance. And was just like fascinated by what they were doing and how incredible it all was, and like the way that people could convey emotion through movement. And during the commercials, I started sort of mimicking, and that's how I started to sort of start dancing, was mimicking, seeing what other people were doing. I became really good at mimicking, and I was just kind of like, oh, maybe I should take a dance class. So my first semester at Wesleyan, I took modern dance with Pedro, which was really incredible. And then I ended up also being in 2 different winter dances in my first semester. And then Susan, who sort of does this to a lot of people, pulled me aside in the middle of a tech rehearsal one night at the CFA in the middle of the dark. And she was just like, so, the dance major. And I was like, what do you mean? I had sort of, before that point, I had never thought of myself as a dancer or as someone that was even going to pursue dance. And then in that next semester, and I would give it some thought. In the spring semester of my freshman year, it sort of started to really take over my life. I had spent so much time both in the department, in department dances, and in classes. And then I also became part of Collective Motion, and then eventually was part of and director of Precision my senior year. And it just started to envelop so much of what I did, and I was increasingly happy because of it. So I was just kind of like, this clicks, this works. I need to do this. Whatever this thing is I need to keep doing whatever this is. But I think from the beginning, and with a lot of direction from all of the wonderful faculty, but especially Patricia Beeman, who was my ballet teacher freshman year and for the rest of the 4 years that I was there at Wesleyan, she really ushered me, because I was very set on being a performer. I was like, I want to dance on stage. Nothing else brings me much joy than doing that. And so I decided to take the summers off from Wesleyan and go and do dance intensives. I did the American Dance Festival in North Carolina, and then I went to San Francisco. I went to Seattle. My senior year, I also went to San Francisco after Wesleyan. And then after graduating from Wesleyan, I went to Tisch. NYU Tisch, and graduated in 2018 with a master's in fine arts. Going to Tisch was super great and also a really interesting experience. Anytime I talk to people about being a Wesleyan dance major, I'm always like, oh, I was a dance major, and they're like, oh, cool. And I always preface it with like, it's so much more complicated than you think it is. It's so much more involved than you think it is. And I always tell people that my grad school felt like my undergrad, and my undergrad felt like my grad school, because of the intense amount of like reading and writing and just like conversation and theory and discussion around everything that we were doing, rather than at Tisch, where I was doing a lot of technique work. I was doing a lot of performance work, a lot of choreography work. At Wesleyan, I was doing a lot of choreography work, but more like bringing in different lenses and making sure that I like was actually critically thinking about everything that I was doing. Everything felt really purposeful. And it's sort of, obviously bled into what I do now. It's that every move that I make that relates to dance, and it all seems like it has a purpose. Since graduating Tisch, I have danced for various choreographers here in New York City. Jennifer Muller, The Works, Nimbus Dance Works. Right before the pandemic started, I was dancing for the second company of Ballet Hispanico, which also has like a social justice component attached onto it. And I was also, am still, a program manager at Dance Project of Washington Heights, which is a organization that provides low or absolutely no cost dance classes to children in the Washington Heights, Bronx, Uptown area in Manhattan. It's a really, really incredible job. And when I explain it to people, I always say that, you know, being a dancer sort of satisfies my like tishy self, and being at Dance Project really satisfies my quote unquote Wesleyan self. It's a job that I don't foresee ever giving up in my life, even if I have no time for it, because it brings me an incredible amount of joy to be able to like create access for dance, especially to people who look exactly like me, and people who, you know, when I was younger, I was never exposed to dance as a thing, or dance training, or the idea of boys dancing, all of those little stupid things that kept me from being able to dance. And just the fact that I see little 5-year-old boys taking ballet classes, and the fact that their parents are there and they want to be there and they're able to be there regardless of what the cost is. Yeah, that makes me really, really happy. I'm going to show you a little snippet video, and then I'll keep talking some more, of my reel that I created after I was done at Tisch. So this is now after 4 years at Wesleyan and then 2 years at Tisch. Let's see if I can figure out how this works. Okay, share screen. Here we are. I don't know what I was looking up. Here we are. Okay, let me just move you over and make sure that the sound is working. Okay, sound is shared. So this is the reel that I created. You also got editing and all that stuff taught at Tisch, so that was really great. So here is my performance reel. We can hear it, right? All of this includes also my own choreography. I am choosing. I choreographed this, and I choreographed that. Am I laughing? That's right. That's it. Yeah, I'm running out of time. There's so much more that I could have said and should have said, but yeah, I'm sure that a lot of questions will come up while we're talking, but that's me. That's who I am now. Dance is in part of my life in every which way, and it will continue to be that way for the rest of my life. And I'm incredibly grateful for Wesleyan for allowing that to happen. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Eury. Next up, we have Chloe Jones. Yay!
Hi, everybody. It's so nice to see those of you who I know, and delighted to connect with those of you who I don't know. So I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, and started dancing at the age of 2. I was part of a conservatory ballet program up until the start of high school, when I got into contemporary and improvisation and choreography. When I got to Wesleyan, I also was not sure that I was going to be a major in dance. I had been drawn to the university in part because of the dance department and the broader dance culture at the university, but for many other reasons as well. And at the end of my freshman year, I enrolled in the College of Letters, which sent me abroad to Spain my sophomore year. I had an incredible time in Madrid, but it was actually there when I wasn't dancing that I realized that I wanted to be a dance major and to continue to have dance be a significant part of my life. So I got back to Wesleyan, and in my junior and senior years as a dance major, dance became so much more for me than it had ever been before. I was still training and performing and choreographing, but I was also discovering all of these connections to other disciplines and starting to understand that dance was not simply an art form, but was a framework for understanding the world. I remember being stunned to find that some of my dance classes at Wes were my most reading and writing intensive classes. I know if any of you have taken one with Eiko Otake, you know what I'm talking about. And this sort of multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary approach to dance had this exponential growth effect on my curiosity, my passion, my dedication to the form. It's so good to see Susan here. Her improv class taught me as much about human connection as it did about weight sharing. Faye Driscoll's rep class taught me as much about trust as it did about performance. I could go on and on. Something else that happened for me at Wes was that at the beginning of my junior year, I got a job at the CFA as arts administration intern for then director Pamela Taggi. And getting to work closely with Pam and the team at the CFA for 2 years was transformative and was really what sort of piqued my interest in the administrative side of dance. I started to understand the ecology of the field beyond what happens in the studio between dancers. I learned how funding for dance works in this country, how to think about curation, how presenters and producers collaborate with choreographers, how many people are involved in making a single performance or a program come to fruition. So that by the time I graduated from Wesleyan, I felt connected to dance in so many more ways than I did as a freshman and than I could have imagined possible. The summer after I graduated, I went to the Yard for an internship, and I had actually learned about the Yard at Wesleyan. The previous artistic director, also a West graduate, came to speak on a panel during reunion. The previous executive director had taught some Horton classes at Wesleyan that I'd taken. So I'd sort of gotten interested in this organization, got an internship, drove out there the day of graduation. And my summer with the Yard was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Martha's Vineyard, where the Yard is located, is this magical little island off the coast of Massachusetts. It was a completely new environment, as was the Yard Summer Festival. I was living in this cozy arts campus, taking classes and sharing meals with incredible dance artists from across the country, seeing 2 to 3 performances a week, starting to understand how to run an arts nonprofit, learning a tremendous amount, working my tail off. I really poured myself into it and I got a lot out of it in return. And in August of that summer, I was offered a full-time job with the Yard as development coordinator. I took it and moved to the island year-round. A couple of years later, I was promoted to director of development and associate producer. And then this past April, coinciding with the start of the pandemic, I stepped into the role of executive director. I now split my time between the island and New York City, which is a juxtaposition of places that is quite extraordinary and I feel very lucky to experience. So I want to tell you a little bit about the Yard, and while I do that, I'm going to screen share and play a performance reel from performances that have taken place in our theater space. Oh, come on. So the Yard was founded almost 50 years ago by a choreographer, and for a long time it functioned as an inward-facing summer artist colony to support residencies for rising dance companies. It was always viewed as a gem by the East Coast dance community, but didn't have much of a presence in our local community on Martha's Vineyard. And that really started to change under the leadership of the previous executive director and artistic director who co-ran the organization before me. Under their leadership, we've worked really hard to turn this organization outward and to make it year-round. And we've done that by elevating our commitment to the Martha's Vineyard community to match our commitment to the national dance and performing arts community. We achieve our mission through a trio of core programs. residencies for the development of works, primarily dance works, public performances, and community and education initiatives. And, you know, I think the art is in the midst of a tremendous amount of change, as is the field at large. And as I sort of grow into this role of executive director and grapple with these challenges and opportunities, I continue to be guided by my Wesleyan dance education. Just the other day, my amazing stepfather was helping me through a couple of difficult weeks at work, and he encouraged me to think of myself less as an executive director and more as a choreographer. And his point was that choreographers, right, don't know exactly what the dance will be when they start out making it, and neither can executive directors. And he drew this parallel between my work as ED and the creation of a dance, saying that in both contexts, and I'm going to quote him, "Some moves you make won't work. Some will cause strain or pain. Some will be seamless and invigorating. All are part of the process of creating something bigger than yourself, something meaningful and something that will endure long after you've moved on to your next dance." And I wanted to share that because I thought it was such a beautiful reminder of how applicable dance is to life outside the studio, and how a dance education, especially one from a place like Wesleyan, will serve you forever, regardless of what you go on to do in your career. That's what I've got today. I'd love to stay in touch and answer any questions about the yard or my journey. Big thanks to Hari and everyone at the dance department for making this event happen and everything else.
Thank you so much, Chloe. Last but not least, we have Nik Owens. Yay!
Unmute. Okay. Can everyone hear me all right? Oh, it's so good to see all your faces. Look at you. I haven't seen some of you in ages. Anyways, hi, I'm Nik Owens. Thank you to Hari and the dance department and the CFA staff and everyone who made this little panel and forum possible. Where to begin? I graduated from Wesleyan in 2012. Wow, that was almost 10 years ago. Okay, here we are. Yeah, I did not ever picture dance being as big a part of my life as it is now. I went into Wesleyan as a high-level competitive gymnast. I ended my senior year of high school. I started dancing at Wesleyan because it was something that I touched on a little bit in high school, and I wanted to stay physically active since I couldn't do gymnastics anymore. I went into Wesleyan thinking I was going to be doing environmental science, and I started to take dance classes. I was introduced to Katya, Nicole, Susan. I was introduced to Patricia, Hari, Pedro, and Rachel Doja, I think was there in my freshman or sophomore year. I don't recall which exactly. And Michelle, of course. Shout out to Michelle. She was like my second mom at Wesleyan. So it was she took care of a lot of us. So, and she still does, I'm sure, and as does Susan and everyone else. Anyways, yeah, I began to just take classes, and I thought that, you know, the dance classes were just going to be like technique classes and kind of leave it at that. They turned out to be a lot more than that, predominantly because of the way that Wesleyan curates and provides dance. It is not something that is a form. I think it is something that's a way of life, which I really appreciate. It informs you a lot about the body politic. It informs you about where you're coming from as a human being and where you want to go. And Wesleyan does a really beautiful job of manicuring that, and making sure that you have a really fundamental understanding of the impact that that has on you, on me, and anyone as a human being. So I'll preface that because that's invaluable. So I took a lot more dance classes at Wesleyan. I became a dance major at Wesleyan because of the way that dance was provided. It made me question a lot of things about what I think art should be. And for me, art is a vehicle to create culture, and culture is a vehicle to create society, and therefore politics, policy, sociology, medicine. It affects everything. And so to be able to have a foundation that from the get-go says, be open to how you view this thing is so powerful, and it's something that has informed my dance career and the choices I've made within them. So I was able to go into the world and start investigating what else the dance world had to offer beyond Wesleyan, and involved Bates Dance Festival, predominantly taking dance classes at my home state in California, making a couple trips to New York and just checking out what it's all about. Having conversations with fellows in my program, having conversations with folks like Nicole and like Susan, and asking them, what is the best way for me to put myself into the dance world, if that makes any sense, to insert myself in the dance world. And so I remember having a very particular conversation with Nicole about whether I should move to New York and pursue a professional career. I didn't start my timer. Hold on. I want to make sure I'm honest with time here. Okay. Do I go on to pursue a professional career, or do I go to grad school? Because I saw a lot of my friends doing that, and she was like, Nik, I really think you get more value from pursuing a professional career. And I couldn't have agreed more. So I met Kyle Abraham at Wesleyan. I think he did visiting artists like 6-class series or something like that. And he offered me a apprenticeship to work with this company. So I moved to New York pretty much immediately after school, and started that. And then from there, I just started to meet a bunch of people, like-minded individuals who had a very open aperture to how they made work and how they saw people as being incredibly complex and incredibly valuable, each and every one of them. Every one of their stories is important. Every one of their stories can imply things into your own life that you may not have seen yet. So from then, I started to become a little more fine-tuned in figuring out who I wanted to work with. And this is a very recent realization that a lot of I've never considered myself to be a very political person, including at Wesleyan. Oh, how wrong I was. I just, like, in the past 2 months, I've noticed that every single choreographer I work with, in their own way, is a hyper political personality, whether it be more subtle or more robust. So I've been fortunate enough to work currently with folks like David Dorfman and Tiffany Mills. And I work with a lovely artist named Kayla Farish, and we do a lot of duet stuff. And I'm recently being incorporated into more of her group material, some of which I'll show you in a second. And I've gotten very much into going to a place that I never thought I would go because I was too scared to go there, which is investigating my own body beyond a physical point of view, and how that directly translates to how I identify myself in a society as an individual. And so I've been doing a lot of research into what it means to be a queer or BIPOC person, particularly a Black man, and what that means, and the history that's entrenched in that, and the future that is going to become something because of that. And all of these questions and different ways of framing were all tools that I learned from different professors at Wesleyan in my time in the dance program, particularly when it comes to asking a lot of whys. Always, like, put a why in beginning of everything, and then put another why after you've answered that question. Always ask why, continue to dig deeper and deeper, because I don't care how long you live, you will never come up with all of the answers. And that humility, that gratitude for being able to investigate and not knowing all the answers is something that I hold so close to me, and that I picked up permission to further investigate from folks at Wesleyan, and the way that they offered it in a very gentle and easy way that was not forceful or critical, beyond like trying to help you learn more or critical or mean, or that puts you in one specific category. So anyways, I'm going to move on, and then I'll speak a little bit more to wrap it up. I want to keep it short because I want to make sure y'all have time to ask some questions. So I will screen share very quickly. Let's hope I know how to do this. Here we go. Okay, start broadcast. 2, 1. Okay, we're broadcasting. Great. We'll do the duet first. I'm just going to show you like 30 seconds from it. This is from a piece called Black Body Sonata. Can you all see this? Somebody say yes, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is featuring me and Kayla Fair. So I'll just show you about 30 seconds of it. We'll pause it there for time's sake, and then I'll just show a little solo that I worked on recently that I finished like last week. Pause it there. I'm going to stop the screen share. Okay, just like a little bit of snippet into the work that I involved myself with. Okay, it's very much it's emotional, which informs introspection, which informs decision making about who you are, which informs who you associate with and the tribes that you roll with, which informs the stuff that you fight for, the stuff that you dedicate your life to, and therefore implementing the change you want to see. So that sort of trajectory is something that over the last decade I've fine-tuned, but is based on knowledge of opening up what you see, what you investigate, and how you see and investigate it as a mover, which I don't think I would have learned anywhere else but at Wesleyan. And that can be explored in many different ways. It can be physical body, it can be becoming a part of an arts organization, getting a PhD, working with folks in inner city schools or whatever, that all the other fellows that I have here on the Zoom call have been involved with. So I'll just leave it at that. I'm gonna stop talking. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nick. Can we have everyone on gallery view, Hannah, if possible, so we can have all the boxes together? Oh, I can do that. Okay, great. Thank you so much. So you saw that with these four different possibilities that dance at Wesleyan can take on a multitude of different manifestations, whether it's political, critical ways of looking at the world, movement sensibilities, diversity in terms of dance making, administrative visioning vis-a-vis choreographic adaptation. So you saw different possibilities and imagination. So I would like to stop talking now and open this up to everyone, especially the current students, and engage with these amazing four world dance transformers. And you can ask your question, you can unmute yourself and ask your question or observations, and yeah.
Hi, I have a question. I'm Carissa. I'm a sophomore. I am a prospective dance major and I'm an international student from Malaysia. So I have a question specifically for Eury. When you were applying to dance intensives, what was your process in terms of creating your portfolio and sending audition videos? Specifically, how did you try to stand out / show your personality through the application?
Hi. Nice question. Yes, say yes to Wes, please. Yeah, every summer I 100% employed someone's help, whether it be at Wesleyan, because in being incubated in such a small, tiny, very well-knit community, you have a bunch of people I had no idea, like absolutely none, how to apply to anything. I had never danced before. And so a lot of my friends really helped throughout that entire process. I asked a lot of teachers to help me film. You have studio space, which is really wonderful. So you can get good quality video. And then on top of that, I mean, going to Wesleyan, this was on a personal level. There's just like also so many resources for you, because we can all admit that dance intensives are incredibly elitist and really expensive. And aside from just general help from faculty and friends and other families, there's a bunch of things in the Career Center. If you end up going to Wesleyan, the Career Center is a gem. I ended up doing 2 intensives in one summer, and it was entirely paid from by the Career Center through like a summer experience grant. So just make sure you like really find all of your resources that are available to you. They're just kind of sitting there waiting for someone to take advantage of them. In terms of like making myself stand out, I think that going to Wesleyan automatically makes you stand out. So you truly do not have to worry about that. And as that sounds terrible, but also is really amazing because first of all, they either have usually no one applying from the Wesleyan programs or have had particular people who have, and have always left a really great impression because of how particularly like different and like the perspective of what a Wesleyan education and a Wesleyan dance student, what that really means. And I mean, like Nik was saying, like so much of what the work that I've been in and the work that I've like collaborated with, it's all been super personal and also been super about like engaging in a really collaborative sense. So I think in every single intensive that I've been to, there have been experiences where I get to have really intimate experiences with the people who are actually teaching me. And that's like a skill that you only really an education like Wesleyan sort of helps you develop. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, but you, I think, would be a great candidate for programs like this. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Marin.
Hi, my name's Marin. I'm a junior dance education and psychology triple major at Wesleyan. And I have a couple questions, so I might go to a couple different people. So the first thing that I'm wondering is for Chloe, and I'm wondering about your experience with being an executive and how you're still able to incorporate performing and choreography in your life, and if you feel that that's something that you can still be on kind of the more administrative side of things and also still do the artistic stuff. And then I also have a question kind of for Eury and or Nik, because one of you went straight to professional and one of you went through the Master of Fine Arts direction. And I'm wondering how both of you arrived at the decision to take either of those paths and kind of what makes one right for you.
I'll jump in and answer your first question, and I'll just be totally honest with you. It's been really challenging for me to figure out how to sustain my own artistic practice and take on increasing responsibility of running an organization. There are people who do it very successfully, and I hope that I can figure out new ways to balance that. But I think I have really sort of come to terms with this pause in my own sort of artistic creative practice right now, because I am so fed by the artists who we work with and so inspired by the opportunity to get to contribute to their development of work and their performance. But it's a challenge for sure. I wish that as a field we could figure out, and I think we are figuring out, continued ways for working artists to also play administrative and leadership roles.
Got that, Eury. Thanks. To be perfectly honest, Marin, right? Am I saying that right? Marin?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, great. Thank you. I had no idea where to go after school or what to do, so I really listened to my professors. I know Wesleyan can seem a little bit insular sometimes, but they know a lot of folks. They've been doing this for a while. Wesleyan is fortunate enough to have so many guest artists come in, and through that they get filtered stories, and through their own experiences as well. I really trust their input and what they have to say. They never steered me wrong. So I would urge you to use your professors as more than just professors, but almost like life coaches and how to move forward with dance. Ask them any questions you have. I followed Nicole's advice and Katya's advice of of not going to grad school, and it was the best choice I could make. Honestly, grad school is always going to be there. It ain't going nowhere. It's always going to be there. But that was my path, and that made the most sense to me, and I'm really happy I did that. If that's helpful.
Yeah, and for someone who took the exact opposite path, my answer is exactly the same. I was going to say the exact same thing. Truly listen to your professors. The fact that Wesleyan's already so small is really incredible. The fact that the dance department is really small is even more incredible. And then on top of that, you have all these faculty members who all have very, very different roads of how they got and arrived to where they are right now. And so the exact same thing. I personally knew that for the goals that I had set for myself, I knew that I needed to work on my craft a little bit more, whatever that means for anybody, on a personal level. And I knew that I really wanted the particular grad program that I went to because it was a grad program that still focused on performance. And so like I sort of had an idea of what that was going to look like for me, but I had no idea how to begin the process, what to do here, and Patricia for me and Hari were the people who really just like, here's how to do it, here's how you get in. I remember calling Patricia in the bathroom after my audition and just like crying because I had basically been offered the being in the class just like right then and there, and I was just like, is this real? Like, I don't understand what just happened. He said yes, but the applicant what? And it was incredible. But sort of same reason, they know you better than I think you might know yourself sometimes, and so I really rely on the Wesleyan professors to just like steer me in the right direction. And like Nick said, they've never steered me wrong, even till this day, because I still call upon a lot of them even after 5 years of being gone.
Thank you all so much. That's so helpful.
Any questions, comments,
Yeah,
observations?
can I hop in?
Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Shirley. I'm currently a senior psych and dance major with a minor in education, so very similar to Marin. I have a question for Eury, actually. My dance education started off pretty identical to yours. Like hearing your story was really crazy. Like growing up in a Hispanic household, I also like only knew like very non-traditional class setting dance and then started when I came here. So like moving forward with dance, how did you, I guess, deal with, I feel like the imposter syndrome, like, being surrounded by so many amazing dancers and so many talented people, like how do you find yourself in that, I guess, if that makes any sense?
It does. Oh, hi. It's crazy because Wesleyan is truly the only place where this can happen. Like, it's truly the only place where someone with absolutely no training, because I don't think that had I gone anywhere else, I would have been able to do what I currently do. Definitely imposter syndrome, and I'm speaking for myself, but hopefully for both of us. Another thing that I sort of really faced was this feeling of like finally being first generation person to like go to a 4-year university and a really incredible school at that, and then ending up in the performance art, sort of like the most low paying, quote unquote, like I told my mom when I left for college, I was like, I'm gonna come back and I'm just gonna make so much money and you're gonna be great. It's gonna be great. And here I am. And so that was like, there was a lot of like associated guilt that came along with that I sort of had to process. And I think that, as incredible as all the things that the department has given us, and it gave me, one really amazing thing that I found at Wesleyan was like the student body I was involved in so much dance at Wesleyan. It was intense. It was part of so many clubs. And I think that I never felt like from the second I walked into the door, no one ever made me feel like I didn't belong, truly. Like regardless of what level I was, regardless of how much I saw myself as like that person who couldn't do this or couldn't do that, or that person could do this and I couldn't do that. Like I was always reassured, even though I was telling myself my brain was working in different ways, that from other people, that like I was meant to be there. There was no other place that I was not meant to be. And not just by the faculty, but specifically my peers. Find your people. They're there. If you haven't found them already, maybe you have, and lean on them, because they truly are, like, the people at Wesleyan really just, they're there to make sure that you feel like you have a sense of belonging that is like no other, because you will never find anything else like this at any other place. I hope that answers your question. Keep chugging through. It's a challenge. Like it's definitely, it still happens to me now, which is why I went to grad school for performance art, because I was just like, I can't make it. I can't do this without more training. And then I even after getting more training, I was just like, I have so much catching up to do. Martha Graham says it takes 10 years to make a dancer. It hasn't been 10 years yet. What's happening? Like, no, like as long as you are confident enough to tell yourself like, I belong, I'm here and this is where I need to be right now, and you focus on that, all of the other things will just sort of fall to the wayside. I hope that helps. Martha Graham didn't know anything. She knew a lot, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ellen, I have a question for you, Ellen. How did you negotiate? What challenges do you have in terms of negotiating scholarship, choreography, movement, and how do you parlay that into your world of embodiment and understanding a scholarship and physicality as sort of one complex entity?
In the research I do, or in my own sort of in my own professional?
In your own professional way, just in terms of a Wesleyan's embodied ways of looking at pedagogy and practice and scholarship, and how did that inform your whole choreographic and scholarly trajectory?
Great. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate what Chloe's stepfather said about, treat the job like choreography. I often say that teaching is also choreography, that, you're even making the syllabus is this really powerful crafting of experience. So for me, I don't really see myself as first and foremost a choreographer. I see myself first and foremost as an educator, and have felt that way pretty much since graduating, that was the priority always, and has stayed that way. That's where I feel most at home. But as I teach, always I try to include movement experience and movement research. So even now I'm doing a graduate seminar, a theory seminar on Zoom. And for half an hour of it, a student a week takes a session where they try to relate the reading to a movement experience and teach us through it, albeit on Zoom. And so that kind of teaching has always been really important to me, so that we are coming back to the body. We're not just reading about the body or writing about the body, but we're trying to do that really tricky thing, which I think we all felt at the dance major, is like, how do you put this into words, or how do you take this experience and really manifest it in choreography? And that's why, to me, it was the hardest major on campus. All the other majors, I was going to double major in psychology, and it seemed too straightforward. I was like, oh, this this seems straightforward. I want something more challenging. So I think that space of, how do we abstractly really connect the movement ideas with other ways of researching has always been important to me. And in the research I shared with you, part of that research was ethnographic. So, in my own body, I was experiencing the improvisation and working together with that group. We were teaching each other, and I was, touching everybody and learning by weight sharing with them. And so it's a challenge, certainly, I think, for, any sort of writing, to really keep that present, but it's very important to me, and I have found it quite thrilling, right, to make that to meet that challenge. It seems like once you try to meet that challenge, there's just sort of endless possibilities.
Great. Thank you so much, Ellen. It's 1 o'clock and I want to be respectful to everybody's time. So I'm going to put my 4 guests in the spot. It's called the rapid fire round of the of the conversation. I'm just going to ask you this one word, or a couple of words, a sentence, maybe ideally a word, in terms of what would you take away in terms of your experiences of dance at Wesleyan? Chloe, Eury, Ellen, Nik.
I'll say something really quickly.
Yes.
You're never, ever not going to ever be a dance major ever again. It will stay with you for the rest of your life, just in all aspects of everything that you do, and it's truly the most rewarding thing on earth. You won't find a more rewarding major at a more rewarding school. And you'll always be a lifelong pursuer of that knowledge. I plan to go back to grad school to get another degree in dance and performance studies. So this will always stick with you, and it'll just keep itching the back of your head like a song that you can't get out of your head. And it's truly, incredibly one of the most amazing things on earth. So congratulations to all of you for choosing Wesleyan and the dance department.
Thank you, Eury.
Yeah, sort of in that was beautiful, Eury. Thank you. In conjunction with that, again, a recent thing is more like remember, but also remember without regretting, or rather just remember, don't regret. I think is a really nice way to just collect information. I don't think there's ever a wrong choice. I think there's just choices that let you know more information about where to go next. So just remember, don't regret. I think it's helpful.
Great. Before I get to Chloe and Ellen, I think Gabby, you had your hand up. I didn't notice it. Would you like to add something, Gabby? Yeah, please.
The dance major in this department is like just the most special thing to me ever. And I'm just so grateful for you guys. You inspire me and make me feel like my work is valid and important. And I was just wondering, like, I feel like we all know this department's super special, like how you translate that or find those little outlets of people who are Wesleyan minded. I'm nervous about going back into the big world and like having just different vibes. I feel like the vibes here we're all on the same page. And if you guys have any advice for that, or if you guys know ways of finding that or have found that, or yeah.
Nik, please.
I guarantee you won't have to try very hard. So long as you're like clear with how you're putting yourself forward in the world, you won't have to try very hard. I promise you that. Yeah, they'll kind of just flock to you.
I'll also say that don't lean away from those people who aren't like-minded, because they'll teach you a lot of what you feel like you'll need to grow towards, and they'll teach you of what you need to be like, okay, this is done here. I'm gonna walk away from this situation now. They're really telling. I faced a lot of that at Tisch. It was a lot of like weeding through people that I was just like, oh, this is not for me, and finding people that I was like, this, you, and those people, like, they were the kind of people who, like, when they were in high school, they were like, oh my God, I applied to Wesleyan too. I just didn't get in. But they were the same people that I was like, oh, I found you. You'll find them. Just like Nik said, like, they're out there and they're just like sprinkled all about, and they eventually all congeal. So don't worry.
Thank you.
I would also just add to that Wesleyan doesn't end when you graduate, because the relationships really do go on beyond that point. So I think, like, to Nik's point, you'll find it in other ways. To Eury's point, like, don't shy away from the communities that are different from West, but also like hold your West people close, because they can come with you.
And I'll just tie it into the last minute wrap up that Hari suggested, because I think it's sort of the same, is that the dance major teaches you really well how to advocate for dance and also for yourself, and that is going to serve you so well. You have to sort of trust your incredible resourcefulness that you're practicing within the major and within that campus, and it will serve you so well to create your own path and to find, quote unquote jobs, and to find those communities that really support you.
Thanks, Ellen. Chloe, you conclude the rapid fire round, but I don't know whether you want to do it or you've already done it. Sorry.
Well, I'll just add, I think that really for me, dance at West expanded my understanding of dance, and it made dance so much more. And so I think that just expansive experience of the form that can then travel with you in so many ways and apply to so many different contexts. And this conversation has reminded me of that, in sort of hearing stories of where peers have gone, and just being together with all of you in this wonderful community again.
Great. Thank you so much, Chloe. Please join me, everyone, in thanking our amazing guests, Ellen Gerdes, Chloe Jones, Eury German, Nik Owens. Thank you so much for sharing and for being so generous. Really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. As you notice, Anyone Can Dance is a metaphor for an ongoing conversation, a universe, and a possibility of imagination in terms of what a dance degree can entail. If you haven't considered taking a dance class for current students, I suggest you do. And you can talk to any of us. We run the dance department like a close-knit family. So I suggest you can talk to us about the major or the a minor program. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon. And don't forget, anyone can dance. Thank you.